Hi there and welcome back. Dear deep thinkers and friends, we're in Ukaizo, the Grand Promenade, nearly at the grand finale, and we can now get to Moiguith, where we will meet Eothas, probably. The Royal Deadfire Company tried to stop us, Thazan Wikaru. And now,
Not a sound.
we'll be very careful on how to proceed. What we'll find in this Ingwithan abomination. To Moiguith we go.
You descend into the ancient winding streets of Ukaizo. Battered by storms for thousands of years, the ruins bear the marks of their role as the lone witnesses of the god's great secret at the center of the city. The houses and boulevards are pierced by great spears of luminous Audra. There are no ashen bodies, no birds, no sign or sound of any life. But with every step, the rhythmic pounding in the distance draws nearer. Soon, you can feel the vibration traveling up your spine. As you approach the center of the city, the weathered architecture gives way to more luminous Audra, piercing the ruins, eventually overtaking them entirely. Cresting the top of a fallen tower, you finally get a clear view of Eothas. He stands, legs astride, next to a great stone monument ringed with 11 cavernous alcoves. All but 3 hold a gargantuan skeleton, bones scrubbed clean by the city's storms. An immense Ingwithan machine floats above the monument, suspended by invisible energy emanating from a well of light beneath it. Great brass rings spin around a core of metal and Audra at the machine's center. Periodically, Eothas's massive arms swing back. The movement alone is enough to draw great gusts of wind toward him. When they come down on the machine, the impacts are accompanied by eruptions of electricity, fire, and smoke. The hundreds of luminous Audra pillars across Ukaizo sympathetically dim in a rippling wave that spreads out from the machine.
What will happen there? We don't know. But it's via negativa. Remove the fragile.
The only safe route to the god is a steep ascent along a monstrous pillar of luminous Audra, intertwined with fragments of Ukaizo's ruins that it has carried through the centuries. The pillar bends in a long arc, towering above the machine. The pillar levels out near Eothas's head, a silent observer to the destruction of the machine it has grown beside over thousands of years. You weave your way along a treacherous, rain-slicked path up the pillar's skyward side. As you arrive at the top, you catch Eothas's attention. Fist pulled back, he pauses to observe you. With the same gentleness he showed at Ashen Maw, he lowers his arm and turns toward you.
Strange to see Ukaizo in this way. It may be hard to picture, but this city was once full of life. The Huana, yes, but also kith from many other cultures. Great hanging trees shadowed these boulevards. Gardens sprawled across the open rooftops. Each spring, a festival procession would wind its way from the hillside into this valley. The celebrants would pass through a steep walk among the stalls of foreign merchants, flowers falling upon them from all sides. All people of all nations, together in a celebration of new life. Such was the power and beauty of lost Ukaizo. But what of you, Watcher? Why have you followed me? Have you come to bear witness to the breaking of the wheel?
Well... I've come to fight you. No, not really. I mean, mortals are going to need a head start on things to prevent the gods from re-establishing control. You need to inspire them.
Mortals are already inspired. It is what has pushed them on for hundreds of generations to reach this point in time. Animancy is poised to go far beyond what we Ingwithans ever discovered. Why does Helia think I should lend more power to mortals?
Because I believe in Kith, believe in our potential to do good in this world.
As do I. From where should mortals draw their inspiration?
They should look to the future. Their imagination and inventive spirit should guide them.
Very well, Watcher. I will ensure that mortals are inspired by my passing, that my power not be expended in vain. Indulge me in a moment's curiosity. There is something I wish to know about Eora, about Kith, that I can only learn through your eyes.
You're not taking my eyes. I need them. What? Go on.
You followed me all this way, dodging an armada, navigating an impenetrable wall of storms.
We didn't dodge the armada, we fought it.
Voyaging across uncharted seas, with the machinations of gods echoing in your ears, all the while trusting in the institutions of Kith to get you this far, and earning their trust in turn. Whatever else happens this day, that much is remarkable. I believe that mortals possess the strength to collaborate and shape a future of their own design. Not all of my brothers and sisters agree. By relying on others and coming together in a time of crisis, you illustrate my point. The gods will witness you and question their assumptions about how responsible, empathetic, and sophisticated mortals can be. What inspired your decision, Watcher? Did the choice echo your foundational beliefs? Or were you influenced by observation?
The Principi showed unity and willingness to adapt. They can bring the archipelago together.
I thank you for your perspective. Yours is not the only opinion that concerns me. But for the moment, it offers much to consider. All I ever wanted for mortals was growth, transformation. Once, my brothers and sisters shared this goal. Some have forgotten themselves, giving into fatalism or tyranny. Others have succumbed to apathy. It brings me great sorrow that crisis is the only way to set the future in motion. Would that I could pass the responsibility of heralding your darkest hour to another. Never forget that trust and coordination between mortals brought you to this place. Your future is built on a foundation of hope, and you have laid the first stone.
So, I still have some questions.
Ask. You are entitled to any answer that is mine to give.
What happens after the wheel breaks?
The great work of the Ingwithans falls to ruin. Reincarnation as we know it will end. Souls which currently await new life in the beyond will be born into the world as normal, but their numbers will not replenish. Anything that dies will tarry in the void of the in-between, awaiting the motion of a wheel that no longer turns. Once the beyond has emptied, every birth will be hollow-born. Other maladies of the soul may follow, and plague those who linger in life. Unless mortals work together to carve a new path, the essence of life will be trapped in the netherworld. gods will starve. Eora will grow silent and cold.
How long until Eora is devoid of all life?
A generation or more. That much essence is already poised to flow into Eora. But unlike an hourglass, no amount of turning will compel the sand to reverse its course. Should you choose, you could lay down your burden and trust in your children's children to set matters right. That depends entirely on you. By your reckoning, there are still good years to come. By ours, time is short.
Why won't reincarnation just go back to how it was before the wheel?
When we tamed the cycle of reincarnation, we broke what had once functioned naturally and without intervention. The flow of essence will not normalize on its own. Essence will simply pool in the void of the in-between, never passing through Adra networks to the beyond. The dead will be left to wander in darkness, confusion, and sorrow.
How can anyone trust the gods after what you've done?
No one is worthy of unconditional trust. If you feel the gods are beyond forgiveness, then they don't deserve your obedience. Make your future one that doesn't require them. Should you choose to accept the gods, I hope that you temper your faith with skepticism.
Woodica sees this as a test when we're destined to fail.
Woodica is entitled to her opinion. If the intent of this test is to justify an uprising to come, that is more worrisome. The other gods must decide for themselves if mortals are ready to dictate their future. Should Woodica's tyranny prove the only alternative, mortals must prepare for a terrible conflict. Your perspective bridges eternity, Watcher. Many will look to you to mediate differences that could shake the very foundations of Eora.
You've had millennia to do this, why now?
For several reasons. My strength was diminished after the Godhammer bomb, and assuming this form took incredible effort. With so many vying for control of the Deadfire, I also saw a ripe opportunity for mortals to cast aside their differences and stand together as one. They have never been more powerful, more capable. Because of this, the gods must justify their importance or be proven obsolete.
So, it also threatens the gods, right, what you do?
Yes. They must work toward a solution or perish. If that task is beyond their skill, then they no longer deserve their position. I would have them justify their right to lead. That could mean swallowing their pride and hearkening to the wisdom of mortals. Some, I expect, will perform better than others.
I haven't forgiven you for Cardnua, you know.
I apologize, Watcher. There is nothing I can do to restore the glory of your hard-won and poorly situated estate. What happened to Cardnua was not personal in nature. I would have occupied the statue even if it was buried beneath Defiance Bay. Given your perseverance, I know that a second home cannot be distant in your future. You have only to seek it out.
Okay, what happens next?
I must attend to my final work now. I cannot delay any longer. You have carried a heavy burden across the Deadfire, Watcher. Before I go, I would rid you of it.
No sooner have Eothas' words entered your mind than you hear one final dissonant ring of the chime within you, then silence. The knot that formed when the Paladin first addressed you in the beyond is now gone.
You are free now, as free as any of us can be. Many will come to you for help in the years ahead. Animancers, priests, even the gods themselves. I have great hope for you. But always remember that your future is for you to decide. Use your freedom well.
Eothas squares himself to the machine. As you move to a safe distance, he draws his fist back and resumes his assault. The blows rain down with increased fervor, but the machine perseveres in spite of his efforts. Spreading his arms wide, Eothas draws power from the luminous Audra clustered around the valley. The energy courses through his body, limbs overflowing with intense light and waves of heat. He returns to his task, each strike bringing with it the sound of cracking stone and twisting metal, the flickering of luminous Audra across Ukaizo. As the ancient machine finally begins to succumb to his strength, so too does Eothas' body, built to withstand the passage of thousands of years. The great Audra statue has finally been pushed beyond its limits. Cracks appear along the hands, then race up the arms. Eothas does not slow his assault, but continues unabated. Its brass rings twisted, the machine spins erratically but withstands the relentless barrage. Eothas stands astride it and pummels the base of the machine. Soul energy begins to flare out from the machine's heart, warping the air with the intense heat. Eothas drives his right fist into the machine's center, the core of metal and Audra. The god lets out a deafening shout, something between a cry of anguish and a roar of exultation. You see Eothas' arm shatter upward from his hand through his elbow. A flash of light and heat bursts from the core, accompanied by a cacophony of destruction. The moment passes as Eothas' shout echoes throughout the valley. Your eyes begin to recover. The god's work is accomplished. The great machine of Ukaizo has been destroyed. The wheel has been unmade. As Eothas' voice fades, the enormity of what you've accomplished sinks in. You have confronted a god. You have rediscovered the ancient city where the wheel was forged, and you have seen the wheel shattered. What comes next is uncertain, but already the legend spreads of the Watcher, who survived Andra's mortar and stood toe-to-toe with Eothas. On your recommendation, Eothas disperses his essence, and that of the thousands of souls within him, to centers of knowledge and learning around the world. Animancers, engineers, wizards, and scholars of all stripes make astounding breakthroughs in understanding and harnessing the phenomena that govern Eora. While some of these developments prove beneficial to Kith, others are decidedly less so. But such is the price of innovation. What remains to be seen is how, indeed whether, they will restore the cycle Eothas has broken. After the battle, Aldi sends her fleet from Ukaizo. Her first and last act as Lady of the Ancient City is to reactivate the storms from Andra's spire. Her work done, she departs in the floating hangman. She determines that none shall control the power of Ukaizo. Under her, the Principe shall remain a lawless, rootless pirate band, and Deadfire shall remain free for any with the will to make their way in it. As the rise in piracy makes operations in Deadfire ever more costly, the Consuelo Mea Compressa votes to scale back the Valian Trading Company's presence. Luminous Audra and Animancy Research remain valuable enterprises, but the company can no longer afford to seek dominance in the region. The Royal Deadfire Company makes a final attempt to seize Ukaizo using an innovation of its own. A ship that submerges itself beneath the waves and storms. It is not, however, immune to the magically charged barrels that Aldi's ships drop into the water. After an embarrassing defeat, the Royal Deadfire Company consolidates its forces in the archipelago and limits its ambitions to a handful of well-guarded plantations. The storms of Rauatai rage on, and its people muddle through with the same tenacity that has served them for millennia. Demoralized by the loss of Ukaizo, the Huana tribes fragment further. All of Queen Onikaza's work to unify her people falls apart, and foreign traders openly flout the decrees of the Kahanga crown. Port Mage remains stable despite the changes at work in Deadfire. Governor Clario and Storm Speaker Ikawa work together to shore up their defenses against the Principe, and to petition the Valian Trading Company for additional funding. Thanks to their joint efforts, Port Mage becomes a bastion of security and prosperity in the southern archipelago. As the balance of power changes in Deadfire, so too does Neketaka transform. Pirates, smugglers, and other criminals flow into the city, openly flouting its laws. The Kahanga leadership takes responsibility for the welfare of the Raparu, and the Gullet starts to improve. What was once a den of crime, poverty, and illness slowly becomes a quiet haven for the Raparu. The loss of Skiarilifus's essence weakens the Water Shapers Guild. Their power wanes and their influence fades. The art of water shaping survives as an arcane curiosity. Your brief encounter with Letharn proves deeply influential for the children of the Dawnstars. Plagued with nightmares and haunted by the deaths at Hesango, Letharn begins questioning his faith in Eothas. At first, his fellow Dawnstars chide him, but that changes as word of Eothas's deeds at Ukaizo spreads. After all, what business have they worshipping a god who denied his own legitimacy? The faith of the children of the Dawnstars fades, but their commitment to the people of Deadfire does not. They continue feeding, healing, and helping the neediest, just as they have for decades. It is no longer a holy mission, but it is a mission all the same. With the Adra at Pokakohara destroyed, and hopes of a Valian outpost dashed, the tribes resolve to leave Tikawara behind. Small and mobile, they move amongst the Kuaorakuhu Islands, where they escape the notice of larger powers. The dragon, Neraskirlas, no longer passes between Aora and the White Void, and the dead flow slowly breaks apart, exposing the temple long frozen within. Vatnir tries to hold the Harbingers of Dusk together, and for a time, succeeds. The group resettles within and around the temple, vowing to protect it. Eventually, however, Remergon's godlike falters, and his followers sacrifice him to the White Void.
Whoa.
The Temple of Remergon falls into disrepair, home only to madmen and monsters. In besting the Beast of Winter, you earned the Death God's mercy rather than his enmity. The deity remains characteristically unforthcoming about his decision, and you're left to wonder whether in doing battle with him in the White Void, you somehow furthered his apocalyptic ambitions. Once repaired, the Adra at the primal island of Kazuwari again pulses with the flow of soul essence between the here and the beyond. The feral life on the island flourishes, the jungles and veld growing ever wilder and resistant to settlement and exploration alike. The Crucible never recovers from the slaughter of its overseers. Though numerous parties attempt to claim the arena and take advantage of its unusual properties, they never manage to establish more than a transitory system of murder and mayhem before being driven away by Kazuwari itself.
Just as we wanted it to let this crazy carnage end.
Like the other souls following in your wake, Muatu eventually yearns to move on to the beyond and the wheel. Stymied by Eothas' actions, however, he settles on returning to Kazuwari, where he joins the choir of souls that echo throughout the Crucible. Hundreds of kith, and no small number of wilder and primordials, flee from the Black Isle, their minds a confused collection of inconsistent and contradictory memories. Each escapee bears knowledge that was once lost, and agents of the Hand Occult across Aora worked tirelessly in the years that follow to hunt down and end these fugitives. They find far fewer than they hoped.
Good, good.
Released from their bondage to the Sightless Eye, the Vithrak of the Halls Obscured abandon the Black Isle and resettle in the deepest and darkest recesses of the ruins beneath Neketaka. Sisak and his colony remain secretive and isolated, however, rarely interacting with those kith crawling about in the sunlight above. Encouraged by her arcane successes, Bakarna returns to her observatory to continue her studies of the celestial spheres. In time, her colleagues in the Circle of Archmagi come to accept her among their number. She takes on apprentices, and they trumpet her praises as both a brilliant innovator and nurturing pedagogue. Slain by your hand, the Titan of Wal poses little further threat to Eora. As the corpse decays, it putrefies into a massive nest of hungry fungal monstrosities. Vessels that anchor off the shores of the Black Isles tend to go missing, only to turn up shipwrecked months or even years later against distant shores. With time, the body collapses upon itself, and the Black Isles finally implode. Though your adventures alter the destiny of Eora and the balance of power in Deadfire, they also leave a lasting mark on those who travel at your side. Your companions find themselves changed, in ways both big and small.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have neglected them for the reason that the original crew of Pillars 1 survived with us.
In the days sailing back from Ukaizo, Adair finds himself disillusioned with all gods, his own above all. Where the gods have touched Deadfire, he sees only destruction, loss, and emptiness. He casts off all symbols of Eothas, and even begins refusing to use his name. Ultimately, he chooses to remain with you on the Defiant, knowing if any mortal is to have the final word in a conflict with the gods, it will be the Watcher of Cadnua. Shodi is not a priestess who understands the meaning of subtlety. As such, she makes her girlish crush on Adair painfully obvious from the moment she first sets eyes on the strapping fighter. But as you all travel, Adair grows increasingly uncomfortable with her attempts to engender his affection, until he finally takes her aside and sets her straight. He's not interested in a sheltered, overzealous little girl, he explains in so many words. After that, Shodi turns a cold shoulder to him, sometimes forgetting to heal him in the chaos of battle. Or so she claims. Shodi's journey through the Deadfire on your ship is an eye-opening experience for the sheltered farm girl. After many souls harvested, more lives aided, and much adventure had, the priestess declares her intent to rejoin her fellow missionaries at the Temple of Gon in Nekataka. Following a shy grin and an overzealous handshake, Shodi leaves you with an open invitation to visit her anytime. It is some months later when she pens you a missive. Can you hardly believe it? Her chicken scratch handwriting reads. Samhain sailing for distant lands. She's leaving me in charge of the temple. I've been named the High Priestess of Gon. Aloth renews his commitment to destroying the Leaden Key. With the wheel broken, loosening the god's stranglehold on Kith is more urgent than ever. It is a lofty goal, and one he does not expect to finish in his lifetime. But if there's one thing he's learned from the Watcher, it's that a single person can change the world. Seraphin seems little impacted by your journey. Always knew the gods were larger than me, he tells you, on the evening he decides to part from your company. He's too long put aside those he cares most for. He confesses over a bottle of rum, and he's got leagues to sail to make it right. The following morning, he's gone, leaving only a crude stick figure rendering of Eothas, scrawled into the hull to mark his passage. After reporting back to her superiors for the Watcher's actions against the Valian Trading Company, Palagina is rewarded with reassignment home to the Valian Republics. She spends the next several years as the head of the household guard for the Duke of Anchenze. In this role, she is often lauded for her courage and loyalty. Even with all of the praise, there are still times when she cannot help but feel she could have had more influence on what transpired in the Deadfire. Pleased with the Navy's conduct throughout the Deadfire campaign, Maya returns to active duty. She can find a free drink and a sharp salute anywhere she goes in Rawatayan territory. In recognition of her performance, the Navy attempts to give Maya less strenuous work. She flatly refuses, throwing herself into the fray whenever she can. Her rifle never has time to cool. She looks forward to seeing her brother again. So does Ashiza. Takehu distances himself from the problems of the Deadfire, giving the tribes a reprieve from godlike omens. And Gati's silence speaks volumes. The Huana grow to rely on each other, paving a new way forward divorced from their traditions. Soon after he departs Nekataka, distant tribes report of unusual and salacious water sculptures appearing on the shores. These quaint visitations are widely celebrated, the identity of the artist ever an open question. He bids you farewell, suggesting that you seek your next adventure in a brothel or tavern, where consequences begin and end at the front door. He sounds eager to leave old conflicts in the past. Great changes are at work in Deadfire and the world beyond, but the storms of Andra's mortar rage on. Whatever salvation Kith achieve will be hard-won, but it will be the deliverance of their own choosing. As the Watcher of Cadnua and the former Herald of Bareth, you return to your ship and begin the long journey home. You hope for calm weather.
Thank you for watching and happy gaming to you. This is Immanuel Khan. And we have finished this masterwork. In spite of all the shortcomings in some places, this is one of the most epic games I've ever played through. The philosophical implications, the wide spanning arcs, the never-ending stories, and the intertwinement make this one of the best games I've ever played. It's crazy. The setting also is so original. Sailing in the Deadfire is truly refreshing. It's beautiful. It's absolutely inspiring. And this is even better, I think, than the first one, which gave us a very, very dark outlook. But this is a more, if you want to play that role, a more optimistic game. What can we learn from the game? That one man can change, well, maybe not the whole world at once. But one man, one woman, one person can change a lot in the small world that belongs to him. Be the butterfly that causes the storm of the future. Destroying the bad remnants of the past and making way for new and fresh outlooks into a world that will be better than before, destroying the old gods and creating a new, maybe, spirituality, to be one with a world that can be, in this case, natural again. But that needs to be recovered, brought back. Brought back by our own hands. To a state where it can continue to exist. Who are the Engwithans? The Engwithans are a metaphor for technology, maybe. For the technology that endangers us. That separates us from our origins. That distances us from a world that is made for us. And by making a world that is even more made for us on the surface, we have, like the Engwithans, made a world that elevates some of us to godhood, and that will threaten to destroy all the rest. I hope you enjoy this whole story, and of course also the combat with me. For everyone interested, yeah, this is a must-have game if you're a role-playing game fan. It's just one of the best games. I would still recommend, even if we play turn-based here, turn-based is a lot of fun, that you play real-time with pause, as it seems way better balanced. Some things seem to not work completely correctly in turn-based, but to transform the whole world and game into turn-based is still a monumental task that I wanted to try out. And it was a lot of fun doing that, even with all the curses that you heard me utter there. It has been a monumental journey. It was truly, truly a great game. Thank you for watching. And happy gaming to you. Wow, all the backers, look at that. Yeah, I've backed as well, but I'm not like in the top tier. I'm somewhere, I don't know, maybe among these guys, or a little bit above, I don't know anymore which tier I backed. But there's a lot of them. Thank you for watching and happy gaming. And now, there will be surely another project, another day, another secret to be uncovered, another story to be explored, and I'm looking forward to doing that with you. Have a great time until next time and happy gaming. This is Immanuel Khan signing out. See you soon and happy gaming.